times, it is easy to forget just how large the cast of Ranma 1/2 is. The show has its core group of characters that it follows: Ranma Saotome, Akane Tendo, Ryoga Hibiki. Then it has its secondary group of characters who occasionally pop in to say hello: Piccolo Chardin, Sentaro Daimonji, Malmolin. And then we have your one-hit wonders, the characters who show up for one quick shot and then disappear. This group constitutes most of the numbers in Ranma's cast. Many were nameless cameos and plot devices, while others took command of their episodes and made a true impact. And for a character to make an impact in one meager episode, a mere 20 minutes, a great character, that must be. So I have taken it upon myself to honor these forgotten stalwarts of Ranma 1/2 with a personal top 10. But to get onto this list, one must be a true one-hit wonder in every sense. Characters such as the Frog Hermit, Hinako Ninomiya, and Pantyhose Taro may not have been given their proper play in the anime, but by no means would they ever be considered minor players on any list. Nope, only the true misfits need apply on this, my personal top 10 one-hit wonders of Ranma 1/2. I love any excuse to feature Ukyo Kuonji more in Ranma 1/2 the series, which is why I love the idea of giving her an arch nemesis. Crepe King Joe is a smug little brat with a food-on-wheels business. As his name implies, his specialty is in the crepe, a sort of high-utility flour pancake. Nom nom! He spreads love, joy, and sugary goodness all over the world like a modern-day Mr. Softy, and is adored by his customers. But Crepe King Joe is, in fact, a pride-hungry, money-hungry megalomaniac who parks his truck in front of already prosperous eateries, stealing away their business and closing them down. What a putz! You just gotta hate this guy. And you know his comeuppance is coming when he parks his truck in front of Okonomiyaki Uchan's. Now, I'll admit it, Crepe King Joe falls kind of flat as a character. In fact, there are times in his episode where it's easy to confuse him for Moose as they have a similar look. But what makes this character so great is the effect he has on Ukyo Kuonji. Ukyo started out in the series as a strong, motivated character, but as the show rolled on, she became very passive, subservient to Ranma, a very go-with-the-flow kind of character. It took a jerk like Crepe King Joe to bring back that fire in Ukyo Kuonji, and boy, it felt good to have her back. So Joe served his purpose almost perfectly, and I say almost because, well, the catchphrases.
And I've got 2 words for you.
Mister, I am the game.
Bang, bang.
I can really smell what Ukyo's cooking.
I don't want to go into this, but this is really a pet peeve of mine, where they take too many liberties in the English dub. We can do without the American pop culture references, thank you very much. Just stick to the script. You've seen it in a few places here and there, but the quote-unquote dark weenie character is a very rare find in anime or otherwise. By dark weenie, I mean a very mysterious and intriguing, yet stupid character. Ranma 1/2 finds this in spades with Yasukichi, the Egg Catcher Man, number 9 on the list. First off, I've gotta say, the whole egg thing? It's f***ing stupid. So what that he can catch eggs out of mid-air and put them in an egg carton? It's nothing Ranma can't do. In fact, he proves it easily at the end of the episode. But for whatever reason, this is what gives him his mystique, as he silently walks from town to town soaking in the power of his aura. We've seen the emo drifter bit hundreds of times. What makes this guy so special? The fact that he is, at heart, a complete and utter dweeb. He constantly mutters to himself how badass he is, as he's stumbling over his own 2 feet or running like a coward. He starts out the episode as one character, and as you get to know him, he turns into an absolutely different character. He literally goes from a Pantyhose Taro type to a Hikaru Gosen Kugi type. That may seem like haphazard writing, but I kinda like it. And what I like even more is the character's connection to Dr. Tofu and Kasumi Tendo. These two are hopeless for each other and also hopeless in getting anything started. They are in desperate need of a matchmaker, and Yasukichi fits that role like a glove. Tofu and Yasukichi have an amazing bond of friendship, which I think could have really been something special had the series ran with it. Just like every romantic movie you've ever seen, you have the boy meets girl story, and then you always have the best friend on the side, rooting on his buddy, helping him out, in some cases sabotaging him, maybe even giving in to his own selfish desires and stealing away the girl himself. It's great, tried and true storytelling! And the glorious part is that it's not in that crash TV fashion that is so typical of the series. It is that slow Season 1 style, where characters are fleshed out and where storylines actually mean something. Maybe he's not the greatest character, but I like what Yasukichi the Egg Catcher Man could have potentially brought to the table, and that's why he cracks his way into the top 10. Alrighty. Ranma has Akane, Ryoga has Ukyo, Shampoo has Moose, Kuno has Nabiki. What about Kodachi? Is there anyone out there destined to be the life mate of the most annoying witch of the Nerima district? Well, providing he doesn't swing the other way, fellow martial arts gymnast Kimiyasu Daitokuji could fill her empty void. They have everything in common, from their fighting style to their holier-than-thou attitudes to their harsh upbringings. In his debut episode, Kimiyasu Daitokuji was brought in as the enemy of Kodachi and waged a war of the sexes for dominion over martial arts gymnastics. That worked out well as a one-off, but could you imagine the damage these two could have done together? And you thought Team Rocket was bad. Daitokuji is a very gimmicky character, one who has a certain amount of go-away heat. Whether you love him or hate him, he and his troupe always elicit a reaction. They are true heels in every sense of the word, much like Kodachi herself. And if there's one thing Ranma 1/2 the series needs, it's heels. Ranma's characters are all shades of gray, and that can get a little boring and confusing sometimes. You need some diabolical characters with no decency. You need characters who are just completely off their rocker. You need characters who are impossible to relate with. Ranma 1/2 already has that with Kodachi Kuno, but had they thrust a maniac like Kimiyasu Daitokuji center stage, well then we all would have had to have prepared for trouble, and made it double.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Normally, I detest when a serious TV series suddenly goes goofy. Ranma 1/2 may be a ridiculous concept to begin with, but it is guilty of this in many respects. I do, however, give this series a lot of leeway, which is why I'm able to excuse number 7 on the list, the Scribble Panda. This character, if you could even call her that, may be the strangest thing to ever appear in Ranma 1/2. Floating through the animation like a character from a Flash game, the Scribble Panda just looks dumb. She looks like somebody just doodled over the anime with a box of Crayolas. But looking past this character's unorthodox art style, the Scribble Panda has a surprisingly touching backstory. Excised from a cursed tapestry alongside 2 destructive beasts, she is starved for some attention and only wants to go out on the perfect date, and Ranma has to play along with the Scribble Panda's bestial advances in an attempt to lure her back into the tapestry to quell the wrath of her 2 big brothers. All the while, the panda is squealing with a voice that could make paint peel and being a major nuisance to our heroes. But a funny thing happens with this character. You actually start to feel for her. You identify with her predicament. You only wish her happiness before she goes back into her prison. I give this series all the credit in the world to get the viewer to feel compassion for this nondescript character, a doodle. That, my friends, is a triumph, and this one-shot deal of a character more than deserves her place on the countdown.
Never forget.
Oh yeah, now we're talking! Here's something that Ranma 1/2 the series is missing: a big bruiser type capable of unleashing his own personal apocalypse! But don't be fooled by his enormous stature. Timmy shows a hell of a lot more depth than your typical bully character. For one, he is a member of the Jusenkyo Preservation Society, giving he a great motive to want to vanquish our heroes, for Ranma, Ryoga, and company are guilty of abusing their cursed forms for personal gain. Timmy is basically the Terminator with a giant sword, and how awesome an idea is that? Kin-E's muscle sword is a scary, deadly weapon which just adds to his terrifying mystique. If you saw this guy in a dark alleyway, you'd definitely run for the hills. You take all his qualities into account, and you already have a superb villain with staying power up the wazoo. But Ranma 1/2 decides to go one better. They made he a victim of the Jusenkyo Springs. And in the starkest of stark contrast, when Kin-Ne gets wet, he turns into a tree-hugging little pacifist. This is where Kin-Ne goes from being a great villain to a true Ranma character. You could not ask for a bigger paradox here. One minute he is a massive Michelin man of muscle, the next he is a puny weakling who barely stands taller than his sword. One minute he is slashing dead a forest full of trees, the next he is crying over every tree stump, lamenting it as a lost loved one. And, in the biggest contradiction of all, here he is, Kin-Ne has devoted his life to protecting the integrity of Jusenkyo by punishing those caught abusing their transformations, when he himself is doing more harm than good for Jusenkyo's good name. As a one-hit wonder, Kin-Ne is an extremely intricate character, one who could easily carry a few more episodes, but alas, that was not to be. Proof positive that good things come in large packages. Did you hear what I just said there? Kin-Ne scores a number 6 on the countdown.